Go, hit record. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. Delighted that you could join us. Like I said, I have just pressed the record button, so we'll be sending a recording round afterwards. My name is Mel Harcourt from the FTEA, for those of you that don't know me. And we're delighted to be joined by Ross Hopwood from Breeze Solutions, who is our in-market expert for the Nordic region. So we're delighted today to hear a deep dive into managing a retail listing in the Nordics from Ross. And I think we've got quite a well-attended webinar this morning. So obviously a region which is on many of our exporters' radars. So if you do have any questions for Ross, please do pop them in the chat box as we go along. There'll be some chance for a Q&A at the end of his presentation, or you can take yourself off mute, put your hand up at the end of the presentation, and ask any questions to Ross. Do fire away with any questions that you might have, and make the most of having him online here. It's a great source of knowledge. So over to you, Ross.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks, Mel. Morning, everybody. Some of you may have seen the presentation I did earlier in the year about actually entering the Nordic markets and the structured Nordic markets. So during this today, I won't sort of go into that. I'll keep more in line with the managing of the listings and the relationship between retailers and your local partners, distributors. So I'm just going to share my screen now. You see that, Mel? Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go. Right. First of all, as many of you may know anything about the Nordic region, we have a market which is heavily franchised. In Sweden, something like 80% of, between 70 and 80% of all grocery retail is franchised. Through either through big chains, and the stores are owner managed, and there are some mixed chains where some stores are franchised and some are owned. In Finland, this is about 60% are franchised. In Norway, it's about 60%, and in Denmark, it's a bit weird because more than half the market is hard discount. So if you take the other half of the market, then about half of that is franchised. So 25% of the market, but that's the main mass market as against the hard. It's about 50% of the mass market is franchised. So but the difference between a franchise store, non-franchise store, franchise store is owner managed and is normally affiliated to either a wholesaler or direct from a retail brand, like Asda in the UK or something, who actually supplies a large part of that retail's products. The franchise stores are generally very flexible. They are owner owned and managed, and the contracts they have with their franchise partners are generally a bit more flexible, and they can buy direct, normally a percentage of their products, normally up to 30% officially, can be bought outside of their franchise partners' wholesale supply. However, often that's abused and it can be up to 50%. It has local campaigns, and but can also engage in the central campaigns. The local campaigns are normally arranged between your local partner, your distributor, and the local store. The local store can increase their margin, of course, by cutting out the central's big margins. So the more they buy locally, it's in their interest. The big things to think about here is that your distribution partner or your local partner needs to sell direct to franchise stores. You can't go and sell to a central point like you can with a central listing with a non-franchise store. You have to go around to every store, which means the cost of selling rises dramatically, which of course impacts on the margin that your distributor is going to ask for. Also, that relationship management at stores is important, not just at central level for your central listings, but every single store the salesman needs to maintain a relationship with the owner or manager. And sometimes those owner managers may own 5 or 6 stores. Sometimes they may own 1 store. Sometimes it might be 5 or 6 stores. So it varies greatly. Whereas if we have a non-franchise store, these are corporately owned. They follow very strict rules in terms of how they're managed, how they're operated. They're planogrammed, whereas often the franchise stores, only the big ones are planogrammed or just part planogrammed. The small ones definitely aren't. With the non-franchise stores, the majority of the products in store are supplied via the central listings of the corporate. They have central campaigns only, and the margins are fixed by the central listing, which you will agree when you go for listings. Direct selling to store is often pointless and also unnecessary, although some non-franchise stores are allowed to buy up to 10% of products locally as well, to allow them to buy fresh and locally produced products. Relationship management is only really necessary at central level, although for the larger, fast, high footfall stores, it's always good to keep a relationship with the management of those. So it's really important that we distinguish the two different types of business models, because when you set your strategy for the market, you have to think about, does this fit the market? If I can now change this. Oh, there we go. Oops. I'm not going to cover the whole structure of the Nordics, because that was another presentation I've done already to FDEA. However, I will just remind everyone that it's flat here. Unlike the UK, where we have the premium Whole Foods and Waitrose, and going down to the bottom, which is the hard discount BM and so on, and then Aldi and so on. Here it's very flat. There is no upper premium at all, except for the independent deli type stores. The main retail is within the upper mass, and EDLP sector, and then we have some soft and hard discounts. This structure is very similar across Norway and Finland. Also, this is Sweden I've indicated here, Sweden being by far the largest market in the Nordics. Finland and Norway mimic this very similarly. Denmark, it's very different, simply because 50 to 60% of sales are in soft and hard discount. And there again, the triangle in the background there is a slightly different shape in the Danish market, but again, there is no upper premium or lower premium at all within the market. Premium products are sold, absolutely, but they're sold within the mass market stores. And I think if you're going to maintain a listing in any market, but particularly the Nordics, it's your strategy influences on how successful you are, and your brand strategy must be by market if you're going to be successful in getting a listing and maintaining a listing here. Because if you don't, then this coverall idea that some suppliers have, where we have an export strategy and this is how it works, it doesn't work in every market, unfortunately, because of different structures within the market. As I said, 80% of the grocery stores in the Nordic region may be franchised. It varies a bit. So your brand strategy has to be relevant for the retail structure. I've just talked about the lack of premium stores in the region. Monopolistic players are very present. In Sweden, one player has just over 50% of the market. In Finland, there are 2 players with 45% of the market each. So you're really consolidated in these markets. Alcohol sales are really restricted in 3 of the markets, because we have state booze monopolies. So the percentage of alcohol that you can sell in mainstream grocery retail is limited in Sweden to 3.5%, in Finland to about 6%, Norway's about 3.8%, and Denmark is de-restricted. So Denmark is a probably better way in if you want to dip your finger into the Nordic markets. It can be difficult to launch niche products here simply because there is not so much choice on shelves as there is in the UK. So you have to really play and make sure that if you have niche products, that you have a track record to show that these products are going to sell in international markets. So the retailers will ask for that. If you're going to be successful in the Nordic markets, you have to have a distributor or a local partner of some sort. You can do it yourself, of course, if you're big enough and have your own 3PL or 4PL partner and your own marketing office and sales operation here. But in general, most of the people that are watching this, you will need to have a distribution partner if you're going to be successful. As I said, franchise chains need a sales team to visit. So if you don't have that, you won't have a sales team. The sales partner must be the right sales partner for your route to market and focused on the right channels, because not all distributors cover all the channels. Be prepared for time. There's no easy fix. And your internal resources and expectations must embrace the timescales and the amount of investment that will be needed in the markets. I'm going to go through the local partner thing quite quickly because we have covered it before, but I'm going to keep it just based on the Nordics. To obtain the successful listing and to then maintain it, which is the most important thing. It's even harder to maintain it than get it. You do have to make sure that you've done already an adequate and thorough distribution identification process from day one. Ensure you have an open book relationship with your local partner, because the value chains are stressed here, and it's absolutely horrible when you start accusing distribution partners of being greedy, when actually it's them that are being squeezed at the moment, because the retailers aren't giving away any money and the suppliers, in other words you guys, have already been squeezed already, so you have no more to give away. So it's the distribution partners that are getting squeezed at the moment, and so therefore keep an open book and understand each other's needs to make a profit. Agree the value chain from ex-works to retail shelf with your local partner from day one, and do that by retailer that you're approaching, because the value chain may vary between retailers. Have your marketing plans and your budget agreed with your local partner by retailer, and have a 3-year market plan, including your entry and or continuation rolling forward at all times. Align your strategies and expectations with your local distributor, because I've seen that happen where the manufacturer or the brand has one strategy and the distribution partner has a different strategy. So that's really, really important to remember that your distributor is not just your sales partner, but they are a profitable business, hopefully, also. The impact of partnerships on successful listings. I can't emphasize that more, that your local partner is a major part of your success of your business and the products. They are your representative. They're like an extension of your business in the local market. So treat them as part of your team and build relationships with them. Lots of brands I've seen, they do a deal with the distribution partner, thinking they're going to go off now and sell your products. And then there's no relationship built up afterwards. There's no follow-up, there's no teamwork, no nothing. And then the distribution partner thinks that the principal doesn't care. So they lose interest. Make them feel that your brand is theirs in the market, and visit them regularly. 2 times a year is the bare minimum. Speak to them regularly. Speak to them every 2 or 3 weeks, if not every week, and find out what they're doing. Give them, indulge them in a little bit. It really works. Every autumn, when there is the range reviews and the retailers are doing their marketing plans for the following year, the distributors are doing their selling plans. Make sure that you fix your own strategies and your budgets with your partners by retailer. Understand the listing rules and regulations of each retailer, particularly. I'll come on to that in a second, but they're changing in the Nordics. So make sure your local partner is communicating to you what the rules are, because they have to comply with them, whatever. Get all this right, and they'll be motivated and empowered to obtain those listings. So without them, it is the local partners, key account managers, that are going to get you your listings. Okay, the listing process now and moving forward into the future, this is a bit of a difficult area within the Nordics just at the moment. In general, the listing process has been the same or similar throughout the whole region, with some differences by country from 2000 today. This has been backed up by something called Efficient Consumer Response, ECR Windows, which was a scheme that most of the retailers bought into back in 2000 throughout the region, and have either followed it in Norway and Sweden in particular, and in Finland, in Denmark, they still follow it, but with some variations. There are three retailers, sorry, that don't always use to use this. The two main ones are Lidl, who have their own system, and we all know that because if we're dealing with Lidl, any other country, it'll be the same. And Kesko in Finland, because they have, instead of having 2 or 3 windows a year, they have monthly windows, but so you can go for a listing at any time, but then you cannot come back for 6 months once you've got a listing. So if you fail, you have to wait 6 months before you come back. So they have a slightly different system than the others. Just to make things more challenging, ECR Windows will continue as a voluntary only scheme from Jan 2026. So whereas in Norway and Sweden it was what everyone has signed up to, and that's what everyone went to, which was easy because it was published and clarified, now it will vary by what each retailer wants. So in other words, from January 2026, they will be able to bespoke the system to suit each needs, which means you're going to get divergence by retailers. So again, you really, really need to be close to your distributors' key account managers, because those are the guys and girls that are going to find out what is actually happening at the shop front, at the retailers within the buying departments of retailers. So it's going to become very, very important. So in Norway and Sweden, it's going to be all over the place in theory, although I suspect it'll be phased. Any changes will be phased in next year. Denmark, well, they've already had some independence and they have some variances, but the system is very much the same. And within Finland, I say Kesko has already varied the system already. So they have a similar system, but it's varied. And with Co-op or S Group in Finland, they already had been moving away from it slightly anyway. So again, it'll be up to your distributors to find out. No Nordic retailers will be direct from UK sources. All of them wish to buy through distributors simply because they want regular deliveries and want to know that they're going to get it on time. This has been made worse by Brexit because, again, otherwise there's delays with shipments coming in from UK due to idiot customs and documentation and problems, etc., etc. So you have to deal through a local partner. The only difference is EMV private label, in which case you can do it. Of course, then they have their own private label operations. There are 2 exceptions to this, that Lidl, you can do a pan-European deal through your own Lidl contacts, or with Finnish Co-op, which is called S Group, because they like to try and go behind the local partner and do deals with fast-moving or particularly successful products and try to do a deal directly with the brand to buy direct, so as to take the distributor's margin and increase their own margins. This normally is detrimental to your market positioning because it means that then you can't get the right pricing for the other retailers and with your distributors. So can't recommend that one. So ECR trade windows, as it is today, up until the end of this year, covers the actual items, segments them by category, and very specifically lays down all the revisions and the timescales of the windows, price changes, EAN number, barcode changes. Everything is laid down by this, and very specifically. It makes it very easy to do with, you know exactly where you are. As I say, unfortunately, it's no longer compulsory anymore. What it doesn't cover is price changes and decor changes that are seasonal and in and outs and everything else like that. So it can be a little bit flexible. So the trade windows, as you can see here, is very clear. These are the week numbers up at the top of the page here. So you have the listing process is basically over a period of 16 weeks, and you know exactly where it is from the day you present or your distributor presents to the buyers right the way through to the time it's on shelf, and it includes the time when you know if you're going to be turned down or told no thanks, whatever. So it's very clear and very laid out. I hope that they carry on with a system which is very similar. And as you can see here, these are the upper part here is the dates of each window and the different stages of the window. And further down, you'll see the categories, and where there is an X in the box, again, that's the category, are the windows of which you can go for listing. So it depends. There's some categories have 2 listing windows a year, and some categories have 3 listing windows per year. So it depends on the category. This is public information, is available in English and in the Nordic languages, and the link there works anyway. But as I say, ECR will not be publishing this probably for next year, simply because the retailers will have their own version, which they are not publishing openly at the moment. In fact, they're not communicating anything at the moment. So this is what I just said about that it will be voluntary from Jan 2026. Okay, the do's and don'ts about getting listed and maintaining your listing up here. Okay, you have to be prepared. You'll get 20 to 30 minutes in front of the buyer maximum with your distributor's key account manager normally with you. You don't have to be there. The key account manager is very happy to do it on their own. However, you will get better credibility if you go with your partner's key account manager to listings, always. It's your brand, you're passionate about it, and you know more about it. Be prepared. That's number 1 rule. Know your numbers and your competitors. It's no good going in there because the buyers, they do know their numbers, and they will want to know your numbers, and they also want to know how you compare with your competitors, and you need to be able to answer that questions. Have your product specification sheets and label PDFs. If your product is not yet prepared with a Nordic label, make sure you have PDFs of that labeling prepared and already. This product specification sheet should include all your EANs and all the other ingredients, allergens, everything by product, by SKU. Have samples available for all products, a few of each. Have your marketing plan ready, because they will ask, do you have one, and what do you have money in it? What are you going to do? What are you proposing? Keep your packaging to a minimum and environmental, because they do have some green programs going on now. Make sure that if it's relevant that you have shelf ready packaging for the outers, because they're big on that. Keep your fascia as narrow as you can, because that's another thing they'll ask for. Because they want to get as many facings on the shelf as they can. Be compliant with Nordic labeling, I've just mentioned, and have an EU address on the label. You can't sell it here if you don't. Be professional, be prepared for anything the buyer may ask or request. They are prima donnas, and they will ask crazy questions. Try to keep your cool, because they will ask, and they will give you bullshit. They will say, oh, I don't like this or whatever, when you know full well that they've got an inferior product on the shelf. Listen to your distributor's key account manager and follow their lead. And yes, sell. And yes, I have been in front of a world food buyer in Sweden, where I've been doing comparisons on mango chutneys, and the buyers refuse to taste it when I'm doing the comparisons, because they said they don't like foreign food. So be prepared for anything. Don't have pre-expectations. As I said, anything can happen. Don't lose control when the buyer thinks your product is not so good. Don't bullshit. If you don't know the question, it's always much better to say come back, and your distributor or your key account will come back with the answers for that. Don't over detail talk. You've got 20-30 minutes, so which really you want to be allowed 10 minutes at the end to answer questions. Don't contradict your key account manager, even if you disagree with him. Simply, he knows the buyer and knows what the buyer's key points are. Don't be surprised if things go well or badly. Just stay professional. If the buyer says, no, I'm not interested, not now, or come back, don't argue. It's not worth it, because you'll just means that you won't get to put the product back in again. So again, just go there, keep a straight face. Don't be late. You've got between 20 and 30 minutes. So be prepared and be there on time. Have a cup of coffee. They have a waiting room, all these retailers. So get yourself there early. And the worst thing you can do is invite the buyer out to your premises or factory. They're not permitted to do this. They really aren't. They won't even go to a distributor's test kitchen. They are really restricted on what they can do. The only thing they can do is go to trade fairs, which is a bit of a jolly, so you can invite them to your stand at a trade fair. That is a good one. And I'm pretty sure Mel will agree with that, because big on trade fairs. The common pitfalls to avoid for the Nordic retail landscape, some of them are self-evident, but no marketing plan in place, lead to poor product support on shelf. That's a sure way of getting kicked off. If you don't have a rate of sale that they expect, and it's always profit per square meter, they measure that in. So if you don't have the rate of sale, their profit per square meter drops and you will be out. Consumers are more likely to buy brands and products that they're familiar with. So don't forget your social media and your marketing. You have to do things. It's no good just expecting just because you listed the product will sell. Consumers are more likely to buy something they know than the product they do not know, particularly in the Nordics. As I said, low rate of sale delisting. Even if you've been promised 12 months listing, if you don't do anything, you'll be off the shelf in 6 months. Have a financial war chest for each market linked to your marketing plan. Make sure you don't fall in the pitfall of offering your distributor 10% marketing money on sales, because the first 2 years when you don't have very much sales, there'll be no money. So you have to give them money up front to help them with the marketing, and they will match that normally if they're a good distributor with money from their margin for the first year or two. As I said a few minutes ago on the other slide, you have to maintain contact with your distributor. The distributor's probably in seeing the buyers every 2 to 3 weeks or every month. You need to speak to that buyer, sorry, the key account manager, every 2 to 3, 4 weeks or every month, and visit a couple of times a year. Keep them motivated, answer their question, keep them supplied with information, show you're actually interested in supporting them. Nordic brands often have a habit of copying successful products. So if you have a niche product or a new product in the market, expect some competition, because the Nordic brands, particularly one in particular, which is a very big Nordic chain, not chain, a food manufacturer, has a habit of trying to copy products, as do the retailers doing EMV, private label products. So protect your brand as well. Social media, very important. Social media is huge in the Nordics. So you really have to do something. You can do it in English. English is spoken by 95% of people in the Nordics fluently. So you can do it in English. Market-specific differences. They are different. If you see my previous presentations, you will have seen me go through that of how different they are. But there's some very important ones that are linked to listings. Sweden's generally easier to deal with. They're the largest market and the easiest Nordic market to enter for UK brands, followed by Finland, which is quite similar to the Swedish market. Sweden is the largest population, potentially larger sales potential, and also is easier to get products here. Alcohol products, as you heard me say a minute ago, more problems, because it's a market where we have state-owned booze monopolies. That's not a problem. You can get into them, and that's a separate subject if anyone wants to discuss it with me later on. But Denmark is easier, obviously, because it's de-restricted there. Norway has a number of disadvantages: very high costs, high retail prices, punitive market protective customs duties, which protect Norwegian farmers, and is not a full member of the EU. So just remember that Norway is a really different market to go into than the rest of them. Swedes are slow to make decisions. Factor this into your expectations. Some distributors offer pan-Nordic solutions, but beware that what a distributor's resources are in Sweden may not be that same resources they have in Finland or in Denmark, whatever. So it varies greatly, and I don't recommend the pan-Nordic distributor agreements, because if you fall out with one, then it can affect all your markets. They're not always the best deals anyway. Denmark is only focused on price. The discounts are king. So remember that if you're going there, you need to be prepared to go on a low margin, because that's what they're going to expect, and they will push that. Norwegians are notorious asking for specific pack sizes, which may not be your standard pack sizes. Just ignore it. Norway is also the most likely one to play monkey business on doing deals or bribes or anywhere else, unfortunately. So be aware. I've even had where distributors approach me and asking me to move a product from one distributor to another distributor, then we'll get a listing. So it's as bad as that sometimes in Norway. The Finns are the easiest to do business with, but you have to go through their silence and everything. But once they make decisions, they make it, and they're very good at following through and doing everything and doing what they say they're going to do. Just the challenge is that they expected to go to the sauna and go drinking with your local distributor. Tailoring the approach to fit the market's unique listing process. This is very important. It comes back to what I said: have a market strategy for each market and renew it every year. You've got to customize your marketing and sales communications to speak the not the language as in Swedish or Norwegian, but the actual retail language that resonate with your local partner and the retail buyers' personas. Because again, you've heard me say in previous presentations, the Swedes are very different to the Norwegians, are very different to the Finns, and their way they do things is different, and the way they make decisions is very different. Optimize your marketing channels. Absolutely, in a surprise to promos as well, because in Denmark it's all 3 for the price of, 2 for the price of, and discounts and everything, where in Sweden it's more rebate coupons on shelves and central promotions. In Finland, in the cooperative stores, S Group, which is 45% market share, you can do no promos except central campaigns. You can't even have your salespeople go into shelf. You can't have any freestanding promos at all. Can't do sampling in store. So whereas Kesko, their competition in Finland, you can do everything. So you have to make sure that your fits that retailer's way of doing business. Familiarize yourself with all the local rules and legal and regulatory requirements, because again, it varies by country slightly. Although it's EU countries in 3 of them, they don't always have the same rules. Get feedback from local customers and stakeholders, and follow up on, see how your products are doing and learn from your mistakes. That's really, really important. Always have another, if you've got 4 SKUs listed, always have a 5th and 6th one behind the scenes, so that when the buyer comes and says, oh, this one's not selling well, you've got another one to take its place, rather than just losing a SKU listing. So always have something up your sleeve. Evaluate the performance as related to what I've said. Get the feedback, evaluate what you're doing, and try and tailor your strategies better for the following year and make them more relevant to what you're doing on the market. And know your numbers. I'll come back to that every time. With the value chain, so many producers, when they go and sit in front of their distributors, and the buyers don't know their numbers. You have to know your value chain inside out. If the buyer asks you for a discount, I'll list you for this. You have to be able to tell him now, yes, I can do that. It's no good going back to the office for 2 weeks and chewing it over and getting the authorities to do that, because by then the buyer will have moved on and asked for your competitors to come in. You have to know your numbers so that you can actually make those decisions. What's the best way of penetration here? I'll say it every time: get your good distribution partner that matches your product, your strategy, and your route to market. Have your marketing and action plan in place. jointly developed, agreed with your distribution partner. Agree a marketing development plan in advance with your marketing partner, so that when you go in front of the retailer, it's there, and the retailer will be impressed that you actually have that ready and you know what you've planned and the way that you're going to attack the market. They will be very impressed, and they will also like that you're investing. If you don't invest in the markets, it's very hard to get a long-term listing. In fact, you won't get one. Ensure you have the adequate funds and resources allocated for that, of course, and make sure that's underpinned by your senior management. Allocate this comes back to visiting the market and having and calling them. Make sure you have the human resources, not only in your office, but also in the factory and warehouse, simply because I've seen that happen as well, whereas the distributors or the retailers, particularly the retailers, ask for a particular pallet size or whatever, or labeling, and we can't do that because we don't have the resources, type thing. You have to have the right flexible resources. That's even more important nowadays with documentation, particularly in relation to Brexit and the issues that come with exporting to EU nowadays. It's good to start testing product sales before you have a listing with your local partner, providing they support that, because in franchise stores you can sell direct, so you can pick some high footfall stores in the metropolitan areas and actually test your products. So you can do direct delivery into those stores and do some local campaigns just to test how your products sell, what's the best place to put them. And when you go for listing, the buyers will be able to see that you've done that, because the stores will have allocated a number in their system to your products, which means they can see how your products went in the sales. So it's a good way of enhancing the opportunity of getting a listing by doing some pre-sales and seeing and learning about how it works in the market. It's also a good way, if you've got different flavors or different types of products within a range, to see which flavors or items sell better than other ones. And of course, mouth taste is very different necessarily by market. You can't, for example, potato chips, you can't put meat flavored ones up here, whereas if you go to Poland, you can. Here everything is dairy focused, so yeah, it's an opportunity there as well for that, is to look at which flavors work best if you go into the direct delivery first. Ensure make sure your budgets are anchored with your distributor partners as well. It's the value chain, basically. It takes longer than you think. Everybody, I hear it all the time, we'll get in the market, we have a year to get in. It's going to take, it'll take you longer than that. By the time you build up sales to a level that you think is sustainable, and your finance department says, well, aren't we doing well, it's going to take you 2 years minimum. That's unfortunately the name of the game. It's a frequently overlooked about the time to get market presence and substantial sales. It's harder in Sweden because of the slow decision making, because that results in delays and time wastes. The listing process has been quite rigid in the past, so that has been another delay. There's only sometimes 2 windows a year, so it takes time to get in. That may or may not change in the future. Retailers are slow to accept new and trending products unless they have a track record in other markets. So remember that. Always, if you've got track records in Germany or Portugal or Italy or Hungary, bring that information with you when you go for listings. And also, if you have successes, keep your distribution partners and the retailers here in this region, keep them up to date. Have a newsletter which you send out, because they like to see that, because they can see that this is a product which we want to buy into. Having the wrong distributor will definitely impede your listing, and that happens lots because people have not got the right distributor. I had a FDA brought over some UK brands early in the year, which I hosted here, and one of those got a distributor and was getting listed, only to have that distributor go bankrupt on them 3 months later. So expect anything. I did actually say that distributor was not necessarily the right one. However, because they offered a deal, the brand took it. But at the end of the day, it's not always easy with distributors, and know what's going to happen in the market. Failing to communicate with your distributor and the retailer is death knell. You need to communicate and keep it a regular contact with them. Listing is hard work. It takes time. But remember, delisting is easy and quick. So whatever you do, once you've got the listing, work at it. Drive it, drive your product, drive your sales, do everything you can to keep it. You will succeed. These are really good markets. There's lots of UK brands in this market that have been here for many years, but they work hard at it and they work with their distributors hard. And there have been UK brands here in the last 10 years, which I hear are now market leaders. So remember that. So I'll stop there simply because we'll run out of time otherwise. I hope this has been a useful overview of a very complex subject. Always get local support if you are new to the market, or even if you think you know the market and you're coming back, get local support and advice if you can, independent, because it will make it easier. With that, any questions?
Thanks for us. No, that was an excellent overview, and I think, it's really hammering home that companies do need to invest in the market if they're looking at doing business in the Nordics. And obviously, you're a great point of, knowledge, and companies should, get in touch with you if they're interested in sort of looking at the Nordic region, if they haven't already. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask Ross? Anyone doing business already in the Nordics got anything to add? Please just take yourself off mute.
Silence.
I think the silence.
I have a question. Yui Chan from Gu Indulgent Foods.
Yeah,
Thanks,
hi.
Ross. It was very informative, and I did have a good chuckle listening to, the landscape. There's a lot to tackle within the Nordics. If you had to
Yep.
choose one market and maybe like a softer entry, which one would you sort of recommend?
Softer end, keep in Sweden and do a softer entry through the franchise system. I mean, a lot of smaller brands will come. They'll sign up with smaller distributors, and they will go in on a lot of the smaller distributors have their own sales team or contracted out sales teams, and they'll just cover, for example, Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmo, and they will do direct delivery into high footfall stores. So, and then they will exhibit at the Formex, which is a sort of show where the independent stores go and buy at, and the gifting market. The gifting market's here big as well, so for specialty foods. So if you're a smaller supplier and you want to go into soft entry, that's the best way. Then you can build up your sales and suck it and see how it works. It's a much easier way of going in. And it's the biggest market as well.
Okay, perfect. So Sweden then. Norway sounded a bit confusing, a bit of a nightmare from what you mentioned with the tariffs, penalization, and some of the requests that you've had in the past. So
yeah, Norway would always seem to be a really good market, but to give you an idea of the pricing value chain issues, I did a lot of work for Kettle Chips when they came into the markets, and if you to use their basic market retail prices as a basis, if a packet of Kettle Chips was €2.40 on shelf, say in Sweden, it would be similar price in Finland. But in Denmark, it would be €3.40, and in Norway, it would be €4.40. That's the difference in price because of Norway is the most expensive, not only because of high taxes, but because of import duties and profits and blah, blah, blah. So it's import duties are a nightmare in Norway.
Wow, thank you. Denmark also doesn't sound that appealing from what you mentioned. It's mainly discounting.
Higher listing fees. If they have a bigger independent market than the other three, so you can get into that, but it is price driven. And if you want to go into mainstream retail, there is a horrendous listing fee required. So again, go in through the independent trade if you're going to go into Denmark, because then you can go through the back door into retail and start with the smaller of the large retailers, going to the smaller ones first.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge as well. It's been a
pleasure
to listen to it.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Yui. Anyone else like to ask a question? No, I think I'll just check the chat box as well. No, I don't know, Ross, if you just want to give a quick outline. I know we've done this before in a previous presentation. I think when I send this round, I will send a link round to Ross's previous presentation about sort of the trends in the markets and stuff. But yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of new trends that are emerging across the region.
It's well, other than the fact that in Finland the booze monopoly is slowly being dismantled, so they will go up to, I think it's 14. They hope to by the end by 2030 they hope to be up to 14% in maximum alcohol content in the retail sector, so that they'll sell wine in the retail sector. So that's a new announcement, going from 5 to 14%.
Yeah.
So that's clear. In terms of the trends, I mean, the trends within food tend to follow the rest of the trends in Europe and UK. Most of the retailers here go to UK. Yeah, there's the normal trends that you would see, but nothing is standout at the moment, other than the normal ones which you would see up here, which is barbecue in the for 8 months of the year, and then it follows the standard winter trends that we follow here. As I said, on the innovation is quite. It's not a problem bringing new products in, but it follows the trends. But innovation, as in we want to trailblaze, is not normally the way up here in terms of what it is. There is still the big market, though, for dairy producers up here. This is a very big dairy-driven market, and massive opportunities. And the British dairy, again, partly because of Brexit, but the British dairy sector here is almost nil. There's a few bits of English cheese, but very, very little, and most of it's gifting stuff for the Christmas season. There's also a big opportunity for anyone with lactose-free products. Quite a high proportion of the Nordic population is lactose intolerant or similar. In Finland, higher is one of the highest. 40% of people there are lactose intolerant. So big opportunity for those sort of products, and they're actually trending at the moment. The lactose-free ranges. There is all sorts of opportunities up here because of the what should we say, the lack of choice. You can't go to one retail. If you were doing a recipe, you quite often have to go to 3 different supermarkets to get what you want. You can't always find what you want in one place, so it's always a fight. World Foods is getting stronger in this market as well now. It was very boring, the World Foods, but actually you're seeing now the World Food sector category is increasing, and there's better choices appearing on the shelves now. So there's some opportunities there, which has not been before. And with that, I don't include Tex-Mex, because Tex-Mex is a very mature category here, dominated by one brand, same as in UK, Santa Maria. So, but there's again opportunities when you have a category like that. There's opportunities for more premium products to go in on the shelf to complement it, because they're very much a lower mass product range. So there's opportunities within each category. The drink sector is overpopulated. Again, not just because there's too much, but because, again, the UK is such an innovator in drinks, and there's loads of opportunities for drinks manufacturers. But when it comes down to they have to register their cans or their PET bottles with the recycling system, that deters people. It shouldn't do, because it's the similar system in Germany and Holland and all the other Nordic markets, but it seems to discourage UK exporters. I don't know why, but it does. And local producers have to do the same thing, so it's not a disadvantage to imported brands. So there's lots and lots of opportunities within drinks. Drinks are huge here, but you have to invest in the market. It's what I said before. Don't invest in the market. There's no low-hanging apples to success. Not going to happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ross. I think if anybody's got any final comments or questions, please do quickly say them now.
Yeah, or contact me afterwards, no problem at all.
Or contact Ross afterwards, exactly. Yeah, so I will send around Ross's details with the recording. And yeah, FDA will be at Anuga with around 70 UK companies. So hopefully there'll be lots of Nordic buyers doing the rounds of the UK pavilion. If anybody does want to say hello, we're going to be based in Hall 10.2 and our stand number is F71A. That's the UK Pavilion information desk. And just a final plug as well. We have the FDA Export Awards, and entries are closing on the 16th of October. So if you are wanting to enter, please do make sure you have a look on our website. You can download the entry form there. Hopefully we'll get lots of good entries for the awards, which take place on the 4th of December in London. Finally, just say thank you again to Ross for all his great knowledge. And I can see lots of thank yous coming in. And yeah, if you need to get hold of Ross at all, just either come through ourselves, or as I said, I'll put his contact details on the email to follow up with the recording. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time, Ross.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to
Thank
hearing from
you.
anyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.